May 6, 2024, News Report 1. The recent appointment of Peng Liyuan to the Central Military Commission's Cadre Appraisal Committee has sparked attention. According to the Tsingtao Daily, Peng Liyuan's new position is as a member of the Central Military Commission's Cadre Appraisal Committee. It is reported that a recent photo has been circulating online, showing Peng Liyuan, full-time member of the Central Military Commission's Cadre Appraisal Committee, visiting the university to research the construction of a high-level talent team. The origin of this photo has not been confirmed, and the time and location of the photo are not stated. The Central Military Commission's Cadre Appraisal Committee was established in 2016 and is responsible for evaluating the political stance, military capabilities, and conduct of cadres at and above the military level, and deciding on their elimination or promotion. Peng Liyuan's new position is significant as she is responsible for the promotion of personnel within the Military Commission, specifically the promotion of the third echelon. It is worth noting that there were rumors in 2017 that Peng Liyuan would take on an important position in the military, but the specific position was not clear. This report from the Tsingtao Daily may imply that Peng Liyuan's entry into the Military Commission has become an established policy. It is understood that the Central Military Commission's Cadre Appraisal Committee has taken over some functions of the General Staff and the General Political Department, responsible for military and personnel appointments and dismissals, involving at least the rank of general. Therefore, the recent promotion of many generals from Shandong province may be related to this. It is also worth mentioning that in recent months, there have been escalating rumors about Peng Liyuan's entry into the Central Political Bureau. In recent years, Peng Liyuan's public appearances have increased significantly, accompanying Xi Jinping on many foreign visits. Peng Liyuan, 62, is from Yunqian County, Shandong Province, and was a famous singer. News Report 2. China's Ministry of Civil Affairs recently issued a notice requiring comprehensive identification of low-income populations. At the beginning of 2021, President Xi Jinping announced that China's poverty alleviation efforts had achieved complete victory and that poverty had been eliminated. However, the comprehensive investigation of low-income populations has now begun, raising questions. This move is seen as a regression, reopening the investigation into low-income populations. The notice requires all regions to aim to prevent risks, gradually expand the monitoring scope, and monitor objects including those receiving minimum living allowances, extremely poor individuals, and families on the edge of income. It also calls for investigating potential low-income populations facing difficulties or risks and establishing a dynamic monitoring information platform for low-income populations for hierarchical management. This dynamic monitoring aims to prevent fraudulent claims and to accurately screen. The notice clearly defines that families on the edge of living security are those with income higher than the local minimum living security standard but lower than 1.5 times the minimum security standard, while families with difficult rigid expenditures are those with income lower than the local average disposable income in the previous year. In 2021, China established a system to monitor the country's low-income population but did not provide them with funding. This move has raised questions, suggesting that the government established this system not for assistance purposes but for screening and stability maintenance. According to publicly available data from the Ministry of Civil Affairs, in October last year, the National Low-Income Population Monitoring Platform collected basic information on 66 million low-income people, accounting for 4.7% of the total population. This includes 40 million people receiving minimum living allowances, 4.6 million extremely poor people, and 6 million families on the edge of living security. However, these people did not receive government assistance. Now, the Chinese government's identification of low-income populations is seen as a means of maintaining stability and identifying potential political risks. News Report 3. China Railway has announced a fare adjustment effective June 15, involving 4 high-speed rail lines, with the highest increase reaching 20%, causing widespread concern. The four railways are the Beijing-Guangzhou High-Speed Railway, the Wuhan-Guangzhou section of the Wuhan-Guangzhou Line, the Shanghai-Kunming High-Speed Railway Shanghai section, and the Hangzhou-Shenzhen High-Speed Railway Hangzhou section. According to the paper, the ticket prices for these lines will all increase, with significant adjustments. For example, the second-class ticket price from Hangzhou East Station to Ningbo Station on the Hangzhou-Shenzhen High-Speed Railway will increase from 71 yuan to 85 yuan, an increase of 19.72%. The second-class ticket price from Wuhan to Guangzhou South Station on the Wuhan-Guangzhou section of the Beijing-Guangzhou High-Speed Railway will increase from 463 yuan to 553 yuan, an increase of 19.3%. The second-class ticket price from Changsha South Station to Guangzhou will increase from 314 yuan to 377 yuan, an increase of 20%. The China Railway announcement did not explicitly call it a price increase but rather a fare adjustment, which is essentially a price increase. Some observers believe that the price increase in public services has two purposes: to increase revenue for state-owned enterprises, as all public services are provided by state-owned enterprises, and to cover up the phenomenon of deflation. News Report 4. Australian Minister of Defence Merlis issued a statement stating that on May 4, Australian naval helicopters encountered interception by Chinese fighter jets in international waters of the Yellow Sea while carrying out a UN mission. According to reports, Chinese fighter jets detonated illumination flares 300 meters in front of and 60 meters above the Australian helicopter, forcing the Australian pilots to take evasive action to avoid an accident. Expert analysis indicates that if the illumination flare is sucked into the engine or hits the helicopter blades, it could cause significant damage or a fatal accident. This incident demonstrates that Australian naval helicopters are under serious threat. Merlis condemned the incident, calling it a very serious and completely unacceptable incident. Recently, Chinese fighter jets have frequently launched illumination flares, threatening aircraft from other countries. Additionally, the Taiwan Ministry of National Defense reported on May 5 that on that day, 7 PLA fighter jets and 5 warships were active around the Taiwan Strait, with one drone crossing the median line of the Taiwan Strait into the southwestern airspace of Taiwan, just 98 kilometers from Taiwan. News Report 5. According to Yonhap News Agency, the governments of South Korea and the United States held an energy security dialogue in Houston on April 30, agreeing to cooperate in addressing China's overcapacity in solar energy and protecting their own solar industries from harm by China. The meeting also discussed two approaches. One is to adopt import controls to address China's excessive subsidies, and the other is to cooperate in research and development of technology to produce stronger products. U.S. Treasury Secretary Yellen has emphasized several times that the surge in cheap Chinese exports of goods will harm the U.S. and world economies, especially China's solar panels, electric vehicles, and lithium batteries. In addition, the South Korea-U.S. Energy Security Dialogue also discussed cooperation in natural gas, wind power, and hydrogen energy. South Korea will participate in Louisiana's natural gas project and transport the gas produced in that state to South Korea. This is the first time that the United States has exported natural gas to Asia, marking a significant advance for South Korea in the energy field. News Report 6. The U.S. Treasury Department announced the final rules for the electric vehicle provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act on May 4. According to the rules, U.S. consumers purchasing electric vehicles can receive a tax credit of $7,500, but the condition is that the electric vehicle cannot contain battery components produced in China. The Treasury Department also provided a 2-year transition period, requiring that by 2027, 60% of the battery components of electric vehicles must be produced in North America, and 50% of the battery minerals must be produced in the United States or countries with which the United States has a free trade agreement. The extension provision allows automakers to continue to purchase batteries produced in China until 2027, but they must gradually adjust their supply chains. The Inflation Reduction Act will officially take effect in April 2023, at which time U.S. consumers purchasing electric vehicles can receive a subsidy of $7,500, with the subsidy conditions being that the proportion of batteries produced in the United States must increase year by year, starting from 40% in 2023 and increasing annually until 2027, when all batteries must be produced in the United States or in countries with which the United States has a free trade agreement. News Report 7. According to the American news website Axios, the U.S. government has recently suspended the shipment of ammunition to Israel, marking the first time since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war that the U.S. has stopped sending weapons to Israel. The report pointed out that this move has caused internal concerns among Israeli officials, who are seeking detailed reasons from the United States. The White House has refused to comment on the matter. Israeli Defense Minister Gantz spoke with U.S. Defense Secretary Austin on May 5, briefing him on the casualties suffered by Israeli soldiers from Hamas rockets. Gantz stated that Hamas' current behavior indicates that they will not agree to a ceasefire agreement, so Israel has no choice but to launch military operations in the southern Gaza Strip. U.S. polls show that the decision to suspend arms to Israel may be a balancing act, but the intentions of the U.S. government are not yet clear. On the other hand, Israel began a ground operation in the southern Gaza Strip city of Rafah on the morning of May 6, bombing Hamas positions in the eastern part of the city. Israel recently airdropped leaflets in Rafah instructing local residents to evacuate towards Yohannes according to the instructions to enter designated humanitarian areas. News Report 8. A poll released by the Israeli think tank the National Security Institute on May 2 shows that the Israeli public's favorability towards China continues to decline. The survey results show that 42% of the respondents believe that China is unfriendly to Israel, 12% think China is a hostile country, and 15% believe that China is a friendly country or an ally. Additionally, 26% of Israelis and 30% of the Jewish community have negative impressions of China. The survey report points out that compared with countries such as the United States, Japan, and South Korea, Israelis' views on China are not very clear. However, since the outbreak of the Israel-Hamas war last year, China has not only failed to condemn Hamas, but has also improved relations with Iran, Israel's top enemy, leading to a continued decline in Israeli favorability towards China. The survey was conducted from April 14 to 16. News Report 9. Admiral Papero, the new commander of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, stated at a handover ceremony in Hawaii on May 3 that China's sovereignty claims in the Indo-Pacific region are invasive, expansionist, illegal, coercive, aggressive, and deceptive. Papero pointed out that China claims that the waters within the 9-dash line in the South China Sea belong to China, covering almost the entire South China Sea and overlapping with the exclusive economic zones of many countries. However, in 2016, the International Tribunal for the Law of the Sea ruled that China's 9-dash line in the South China Sea has no legal basis. Papero criticized China's actions as going beyond the gray zone strategy. He stated that the United States will work with allies to protect the natural, free, and open Indo-Pacific region, strive to peacefully resolve any crisis, but also be prepared to combat threats to the United States and its allies. Papero officially succeeded Admiral Aquilino as the new commander of the Indo-Pacific Command. Papero's speech emphasized the U.S.'s concerns about China's sovereignty claims in the Indo-Pacific region and indicated that the U.S. will work with allies to protect the region's freedom and openness. Papero's remarks demonstrate U.S. dissatisfaction and warning about China's actions in the South China Sea, as well as the U.S.'s firm stance in the Indo-Pacific region. News Report 10. Data released by the Chinese Ministry of Culture and Tourism shows that during the May Day holiday, there were 295 million domestic trips, an increase of 7.6% compared to the previous year. Domestic tourism spending reached 166.9 billion renminbi, a year-on-year increase of 12.7%. The number of outbound tourists reached 1.89 million, an increase of 1.4 times year-on-year. Among them, 61% of Chinese tourists chose to travel in Asia, 15% went to Europe, and 13% went to the Americas. Yang Ruanxiong, director of the Hong Kong Cultural, Sports, and Tourism Bureau, stated that during the May Day holiday, 766,000 Chinese tourists visited Hong Kong, a 20% increase year-on-year, bringing in 2 billion Hong Kong dollars in revenue for Hong Kong. However, Wang Jiahe, chairman of the Hong Kong Catering Association, pointed out that the consumption level of most Chinese tourists has decreased by 20% compared to before the epidemic. In addition, China Central Television reported that the director of the Cuban Tourism Bureau, Garcia, announced visa-free entry for Chinese passport holders and the resumption of direct flights between China and Cuba on May 17. Some netizens joked that Chinese people can now open a fast route to the United States through Cuba, flying to Cuba and then taking a boat to the United States. News Report 11. May 5 is Children's Day in Japan. According to data released by the Japanese Ministry of Internal Affairs and Communications, as of April 1 this year, the total number of children under 15 years old in Japan was 14.01 million. Accounting for 11.3% of the total population of Japan. Compared with the same period last year, the number of children has decreased by 330,000, marking the 43rd consecutive year of decline and hitting a record low. Since the population began to increase in 1971, the number of children in Japan has been declining. In terms of regions, the number of children in all administrative regions of Japan, 48 prefectures, is decreasing, with only Tokyo and Kanagawa prefectures seeing an increase in the number of children, up by 1 million. Additionally, according to Yonhap News Agency, a report released by the Korean Peninsula Future Population Research Institute on May 6 pointed out that due to the impact of low fertility rates, South Korea's labor force will decrease to 27.17 million in 20 years, a decrease of 10 million from now. The report predicts that by 2031, the median age of the South Korean population will reach 50.3 years, with over half of the population over 50 years old. By 2050, the population of people aged 65 and above will reach 18.91 million, accounting for 40% of the total population. The report warns that South Korea's aging population will hinder economic growth, lead to a lack of consumption power, potential collapse of the domestic market, and increase the burden on caregivers. News Report 12. Vietnam's anti-corruption campaign is deepening, with another senior official falling. The Vietnamese Ministry of Public Security announced in a statement on May 4 that Vietnamese police arrested former government office chief My Trong Yong on April 30 on charges of abuse of power. Vietnamese official media stated that My Trong Yong's arrest was related to real estate projects. My Trong Yong served as the Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc from 2016 to 2021. Nguyen Xuan Phuc became President of Vietnam in April 2021, but he resigned from office and retired in January last year due to allegations of financial issues related to the epidemic involving his subordinates. He served as president for less than 2 years. This anti-corruption campaign, dubbed the Furnace of Fire, has been underway for about 10 years. Recently, the momentum of the anti-corruption campaign has intensified, with hundreds of senior officials and corporate executives being prosecuted or removed from office, including former President Vu Van Nam, who was dismissed in March this year, and former Chairman of the National Assembly Wang Tinghui, who was dismissed in May. These officials were actually dismissed rather than resigning voluntarily.